Have you ever felt like your mind is, well, both brilliant and a total mess at the same time? Kind of like a computer with 1,000 tabs open. It's incredibly powerful, sure, but it's also super prone to freezing up at the absolute worst moment. I mean, does this sound familiar? You start exploring just one simple idea, but then all these other doors related to it just swing open. You step through one, and bam, 3 more doors appear. And then, a few moments later, you're miles away from where you started, and you just stop and ask yourself, wait, what was I even thinking about? Yep, that's exactly the feeling we're diving into today. So, we're going to give this phenomenon a name. Let's call it mental muddiness, or maybe a thought flood. It's that exact moment when your brain feels like it's firing on all cylinders, just moving at light speed. But then, all of a sudden, it gets overwhelmed by its own velocity and just grinds to a halt. And this really brings us to the core question we're trying to answer here. Is this a flaw in how we think? Is it some kind of bug in our mental software? Or, and this is the interesting part, is it actually just an unavoidable side effect of having a mind that's constantly running in turbo mode? Okay, to answer that, we've got to go a little deeper than just, oh, I got distracted. What's really happening here is a pattern, something we could call the trap of fractal thinking. So what is fractal thinking? Well, it's basically when you zoom in on one little piece of a bigger idea, and your mind suddenly sees a whole universe inside that one piece, with just endless layers of detail. And instead of, finishing the main thought, your brain gets obsessed with trying to conquer every single sublevel it finds along the way. Here's a great way to think about it. Most people, right? They look at a tree and they see, well, leaves. But a mind in this fractal state tries to process everything at once. Not just the leaf, but the veins inside the leaf, the chlorophyll inside the veins, even the atomic structure of it all. It's like you're trying to render the entire universe in 8K, in real time. And what happens? Your mental gearbox just completely burns out. Okay, so why does this even happen? Why is it that some brains just seem to flow like a calm river, while yours feels more like a tsunami crashing down? Let's get into the science of why it feels like your brain is short-circuiting. It usually boils down to 3 main culprits. First up, you've got flight of ideas. See, chasing a new idea gives your brain a little hit of dopamine. It's a reward. Finishing a task? That feels like work. So your brain just loves to chase the next shiny new thought. Second is cognitive overload, and we'll circle back to that in just a second. And third is good old analysis paralysis, which is really a kind of perfectionism that traps you in this never-ending rabbit hole of detail.
All right, let's focus on that cognitive overload piece. Think of your working memory as your brain's RAM. And here's the thing, it can typically only hold about 5 to 9 pieces of information at once. That's it. So when you're trying to cram like 50 different ideas and connections and details in there, is it really any wonder that the whole system just crashes and everything turns to mush?
Now, before we get to the good news, and there is good news, we have to be honest about the real costs. The frustration, the exhaustion that comes with this way of thinking, it's a big deal. And it leads to this feeling of what you might call intellectual incompleteness. It's this painful idea that you can have the most brilliant thoughts in the world, but if you can't actually see a single one through to the end, that brilliance never turns into anything valuable in the real world. It just stays locked up inside your head. And this quote just nails that feeling perfectly. You end the day feeling more exhausted than someone who's done hard labor, even though you might look like you've done nothing concrete at all. Your brain has run a full-on mental marathon, even if you haven't moved an inch. And forgetting what you were thinking about a minute ago, that can trigger a real crisis of confidence, making you wonder, am I losing my ability to focus? But hang on a second. What if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if this isn't just a problem to be solved? What if it's actually a superpower in disguise? This is where we flip the script. The very things you've been calling problems, the lack of focus, the messiness, the inability to finish, can be completely reframed. They can become an incredible ability to synthesize ideas, sheer mental speed, and a bottomless well of curiosity. Let's break these down for a second. Synthesis. This means your mind can spot connections that absolutely nobody else sees, weaving together seemingly random topics in really creative ways. Then there's speed. Even when you feel totally bogged down, your brain is probably still processing information way faster than most people. And finally, curiosity. This whole thing is driven by an insatiable desire to understand what's underneath. That's the engine that literally drives all human progress. So, if you've got this high-performance engine, the question isn't, how do I slow it down? No. The real question is, how do I learn to drive it?
So let's talk about a simple but really powerful strategy for doing just that.
Remember, the problem isn't the engine. You don't need a new one. You've already got a Ferrari under the hood. What you need is to learn how to handle the steering wheel, especially when you're going into those sharp turns.
Okay, here's a practical 3-step approach to actually take back control. Step 1 is the mind dump. Get everything, and I mean everything that's in your head out onto a piece of paper. Every idea, every worry, every little to-do. This doesn't just clear out your mental RAM, it gets the chaos outside of you so you can look at it objectively. Step 2, choose one tab. Just one from that list, the one that's the most important thing right now. That single act of choosing, that's you putting your hands on the steering wheel. And finally, step 3, consciously park the rest. You literally tell yourself, these are great ideas, but they're for later. This lets you focus without feeling like you're just throwing away those other brilliant thoughts. They're not gone. They're just safe, waiting for you in the parking lot.
So, I want to leave you with this idea. If you've been thinking of your mind as this chaotic, messy place, I want you to try reframing it. It's not a mess. It's a vast, incredible library, just packed with knowledge and connections waiting to be explored. So the question I have for you is this. Instead of getting lost wandering all the aisles, what's the one right shelf in that huge library of yours that you're going to explore first? Thanks for joining us.